Ukraine is one of the largest countries in Europe by area and population. It declared independence in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Since then, Ukraine has been actively developing as a peaceful, democratic, European-focused country, implementing reforms and seeking to join the European Union. However, the strict totalitarian Russia has always sought to capture and subjugate freedom like Ukraine, just as it always did in the past centuries during the Russian Empire and later on in the communist Soviet Union times. In February 2014, the Ukrainian people drove out the pro-Russian authoritarian president, Viktor Yanukovych, after large-scale protests. Russia sheltered him and forcibly annexed the Crimean Peninsula, and then launched separatist insurgencies in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions of eastern Ukraine. For a long period of 8 years, Russia's covert hybrid war against Ukraine continued. A new, terrible, and large-scale war began on the European continent on the 24th of February 2022. Russia's unprovoked full-scale armed invasion of neighboring peaceful Ukraine has become the largest military conflict in the world since the Second World War. Russia used the entire arsenal of modern weapons, except for weapons of mass destruction. The economic consequences of the war were felt by many countries far beyond the theater of battle. The Russian military has been committing war crimes on a massive scale, occupying Ukrainian lands, towns, and villages, murdering and raping civilians, destroying housing and digital infrastructure, and deporting Ukrainian kids. Leading democracies, including the United States and the EU, have supported Ukraine and sided with the light and good, freedom, and European values. On the other side are those who support darkness and evil, Russian despotism of the worst kind. Large-scale fighting is taking place in all three natural elements, at sea, in the sky, and on land. Ukraine's military intelligence, whose symbol is an owl with a sword pointed at the center of Imperial Russia, has become a key element of armed resistance to aggression. The emblem of the defense intelligence of Ukraine bears the Latin slogan, Sapiens Dominabitur Astris, the wise will rule over the stars.
The most successful Ukrainian counteroffensive in this entire war. This is what awaits them, man. Kharkiv is truly a Ukrainian city. Over 8,500 square kilometers have been liberated. We planned a bit less. 2,000 square kilometers less. Over 400 population centers have been liberated. We are in Kupiansk. The 92nd Brigade has liberated one side. We have liberated the other side behind the Oskil. Nearly 150,000 local civilians have been rescued. I want to hug every one of you. We were waiting for you desperately. The Kharkiv offensive as a strategic level masterpiece. We send the intel to Central Command Headquarters. I am honored to thank all of you for liberating our state from the enemy. Ukraine's military intelligence, jointly with the special forces of our allies in the West, accurately foresaw not only the time of the Russian full-scale invasion, but also the main targets of its attacks, from Crimea, occupied since 2014, to Kherson, Mykolaiv, and Zaporizhia oblasts in the south, from the territory of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts that was occupied at the same time in the area of the United Forces operation, from Belarus via the Chernobyl zone directly to Kiev, and directly from the Russian territory to Chernihiv, Sumy, and Kharkiv oblasts. One of the main assaults originated from the Russian city of Belgorod and would be directed against the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest and most populous city after the capital. The short distance of 30 kilometers to the Russian border made the Kharkiv Oblast particularly vulnerable to a fast advance of the occupiers. We knew all this. We had this information. The Russians had several options to implement their intentions. True to their national tradition, they made the harshest and most terrifying choice. Most of the military political leadership preferred a different option, but they were clearly overruled. I cannot say that was a surprise to us. Early on February 27th, on the third day since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the worst thing happened. Several columns of Russian occupiers broke through into Kharkiv, behind the Beltway. Some of them got lost in the residential quarters of the city. The Kamaz trucks and the armored vehicles Typhon and Tiger, carrying the enemy assault force and painted with the white tactical Z signs, made a dismal impression on the residents of Kharkiv, but didn't break their will to resist. There is one Tiger on Saperna Street. I see two of them. Another one is crawling. And the soldiers are moving stealthily with their automatic guns ready to fire. 3. The fourth Kamaz truck. Fuck, they are firing at houses from heavy weapons. He's going to fucking fire from a grenade launcher. The Kharkiv defenders resolutely started contact street clashes with the aggressor. The enemy Tiger vehicles that invade other people's land like true beasts had their skins well roasted. Their open intestines were set on fire too. Guys, we can see Russian tanks on the Beltway. Ours are firing at them. We should leave. Besides the famous 92nd Chuiv Mechanized Brigade of the National Guard and newly formed troops of the Territorial Defense, the volunteers as well were actively fighting the aggressor in the city streets. Together they succeeded in destroying the enemy's armored vehicles and manpower and taking their first POWs. What's your position? Machine gunner. What was your task here? To enter and to encircle the city. I see. How many of you came here and how did you get in? We came via the circuit. 4 Tiger vehicles and 1 armored capsule. This is how we meet the Russian world, my ass. Get him here, blindfold him. That's what will happen to everyone who invades our Kharkiv. After the enemy breakthrough into the city was neutralized on February 27th, the Russian forces were successfully pushed behind the Beltway. It bore the terrible traces of the fighting, the military equipment that was left and burned down, and dead enemy soldiers. The residents of Kharkiv, mostly Russian speakers, didn't submit to the aggressors, like in 2014. We came to the city of Kharkiv earlier, following the orders of our commander. We organized the resistance movement against this aggression. On February 23rd, we handed out the weapons to the first of our, let's say, guerrilla fighters, and these people took the semi-sphere of the city with the armed forces of Ukraine and were the first ones to take the blow of this enemy assault. We were ready for all this. The most important thing I can say is that I was surprised by the morale of the people who took up weapons. In most cases, it was higher than predicted. Kharkiv is truly a Ukrainian city. Vito, a military intelligence officer, played a key role in the formation of a new special unit of Kharkiv volunteer fighters. The unit, comprised mainly of Azov Regiment veterans, was named after the mythical sea monster, Kraken, by Vito, a former Marine Special Forces officer. This time the scale of the Russian invasion required the military intelligence not only to gather large amounts of information about the enemy but to form new, large resistance forces. Small combat special forces groups were not enough. As you've aptly said, we've been working for our entire life in small units. And before the war, when we realized it was inevitable, we started to form more powerful units, with a clear understanding that it would be their time to act. As you can see, we were right in doing so. The main intelligence directorate played a great role in the Kharkiv Oblast. Namely, the special unit Kraken took shape and developed in the sphere of military intelligence. By providing support, fostering development, and offering training to volunteer fighters, military intelligence propelled the unit forward. The aggressors couldn't take the second biggest and second populated Ukrainian city in a one-move attack. Instead, they occupied one-third of the oblast territory, Vovchansk, Kupiansk. They started to systematically destroy Kharkiv and all cities, towns, and villages under Ukraine's control. On March 1st, they hit the building of the Kharkiv Oblast State Administration at Freedom Square with a Caliber cruise missile. This building was liberated by the National Guard from separatists back on April 16, 2014, and since then became the symbol of resistance against the Russian world in the Kharkiv Oblast. Those who were waiting for the Russian world with a Russian flag at the square, is this what you wanted? We warned you it was a bad idea. There are many wounded people. I don't see any casualties. Is there anyone here? Yes. The attack took the lives of 29 people. The number of casualties among the Kharkiv civilians was growing day by day because the occupiers were committing these crimes against humanity during the entire spring and summer of 2022. At the same time, the defense forces in the Kharkiv Oblast started to fight the enemy out of the villages in the north and east of the Oblast center. Our land is helping us and our population is helping us a lot. Because the population of Kharkiv, I will repeat myself, became so pro-Ukrainian. It was pro-Ukrainian, but this war brought people together so much that local people were reporting on everything they saw, providing us with the information. They are our ears and eyes. We evaluate this information properly, analyze it, and it helps us a lot in foreseeing what the Russian army is about to do. That is why they are suffering huge losses. If we get information from one source, we cannot evaluate it, because it is very subjective. But if we get it from 5 sources, or at least from 2 and more, and the information is the same, we realize that it is objective for us. We analyze it and develop an action plan based on this information.
Ми робимо аналіз, і вже з цієї інформації ми виробляємо той план дій, по якому ми будемо діяти.
Get the guys, let's go clear the way. Let's spread out and go in. Infantry, you catch up. Is it clear? Which side? On March 29th, the soldiers of the Special Unit, Kraken, supported by armored vehicles and tanks, in a combat operation liberated the village of Volkivka, located 23 kilometers from Kharkiv city center. Up to 70 occupiers were eliminated in the combat, another were taken as prisoners of war. The glorious Russian army. A month after the Volkivka operation, on April 29th, the large village of Ruska Lozova, situated on the main motorway, Kharkiv, Belgorod, was liberated by Kraken fighters. This was followed by the liberation of the nearby small village of Pytomnik in early May. As a result, the Russian army was gradually and effectively pushed out of Kharkiv's suburbs and away from the Beltway, decreasing the risk of the city being conquered. During these operations, the Kraken fighters showcased their offensive capabilities rather than their defensive skills. Speaking of the operations in Volkivka, Ruska Lozova, Pytomnik, we were planning how to bypass those population centers, villages, how to enter them, and basically were performing the assault actions. When we enter the enemy's rear, also known as the Gray Zone, we conduct additional reconnaissance to gather intelligence. We observe their forces, their tactics, and the number of troops. This information is then sent to Kiev, and we process it ourselves. Once we have analyzed the data, we work together with the armed forces units to execute the plan we have developed.
І самі цю інформацію обробляємо, і потім уже спільно з підрозділами ЗСУ, по тому плану, якому ми виробляємо, ми діємо.
The spring victories of the military intelligence officers inspired them to continue their efforts. In addition to the formidable Kraken unit in Kharkiv Oblast, small volunteer-based units from the main Directorate of Intelligence were active throughout the summer. One of these units, Cedar, achieved a significant victory on July 12 near the village of Dementievka. With support from the National Guard artillery and territorial defense units, they successfully destroyed a Russian Marine reconnaissance group, seized trophies, and took one of the commanders as a prisoner of war. The injured was provided with immediate medical assistance on the battlefield. Fuck, men, are you out of your mind? Bring water, not a camera. Get some water. After that he was taken to a hospital where he received treatment under guard. It turned out that the POW was Stanislav Trutnev, a combat diver and an officer in Russia's North Navy 140th Special Forces Unit. While carrying out the operation, we managed to capture the high ground, but our fellow soldiers deserted us, leaving only 5 of us behind. 2 of our comrades were killed on the left side, and the other 2, believing that I had also perished, fled. I do not support this war and fail to comprehend its purpose. Additionally, much of what we were told has been proven false, and I haven't come across any Nazis here.
Я не поддерживаю эту войну. Я не понимаю, почему мы здесь. Многое, что о нас здесь рассказывали, было неправдой. Не встретил ни одного нациста.
At the end of summer, the Ukrainian army devised a strategic counteroffensive plan in the Kharkiv Oblast. The operation was to be led by Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, the commander of the land forces of Ukraine. In March, he had successfully directed the defense of Kiev, forcing the defeated and exhausted enemy to retreat from the capital. However, this time, they needed to attack, not just defend. The main challenge was to ensure that the offensive group had enough ammunition. The soldiers were eager to fight and had already been engaged in intense battles. They were fed up with constant retreating. To achieve operational surprise, Syrsky needed to mislead the enemy into thinking that the Ukrainian army was gathering forces and preparing to advance in the south, in the Kherson Oblast. As a result, the Russians sent additional reserves to that area. The military intelligence carefully gathered information to determine where the enemy's line of defense was thinnest and where their forces were weakest. We send the intel to the quarters in charge of everything. The military intelligence enlisted the help of the Special Assault Unit, Kraken. It proved to be efficient in this kind of warfare. They specialize in the combat inside of populated centers, which is why they already knew the drill.
Він спеціалізується на бойових діях всередині населених пунктів. Ну, тож для них там було, в принципі, все звично.
Balaklia was the biggest city on the way of the main assault. On September 6th, the Kraken unit started the offensive. Balaklia is a former district center not far from the international motorway Kharkiv, Rostov. This city is famous for the big storages of artillery ammunition located in the village of Verbivka in the 65th Arsenal. The Kraken unit rejected the idea of a frontal assault on Balaklia, deciding instead to bypass it, taking the small villages around the city one by one. Let's spread out. I start surveillance. They are moving out. Sokol. The assault on Balaklia took the enemy by surprise. The preparation of the offensive was successfully kept secret. Kraken assault units took the initiative right away. The enemy failed to organize a decent defense, and then its combat formation started to crumble. Russians started to flee in panic. Those who were not fast enough were taken as prisoners of war. At first, Kraken took under control the territory of the artillery storage facilities in Verbivka. Are the Balaklia arsenals behind them? Everything will be Ukraine. The arsenal of ammunition load. I saw there were shells for Minchik. The Russians, caught off guard by the swift and unexpected offensive, were heavily pounded by reactive, cannon artillery, and mortars. Mortar. The first assault groups successfully reached the outskirts of Balaklia, entered the city, and established a foothold. However, they needed to proceed and enter the various neighborhoods. Each advancement was carefully planned, thought through, and closely monitored by drones from the air. You come here, 2 directions. We are moving out via this crossroad. Keep everything under control. Battle command and coordination are crucial elements during the assault actions. Without command, we cannot achieve the set tasks. Without command, we lose the control over our troops, units, leaving them blind.
Ми втрачаємо управління військами, підрозділами, і вони, получаються, сліпі.
But this time the warnings didn't come true. On the contrary, Kraken fighters advanced fast in Balaklia. They established a foothold on the new military lines, thoroughly cleared the surrounding area, conducted the supplemental reconnaissance, and moved on. Maybe he will blow up the bridge. I can see the armor and vehicles withdrawing from the bridge. Copy. So, the fuckers are running away, right? Yes, sir. We need to go after them. The enemy didn't pose any resistance in the city. The Russians ran away in panic, leaving only their symbols behind them. This is what will happen to them, man. Their morale is crushed. Maybe they were better during the training, but here they cannot orientate, they get lost. Topography is one of the key things. If you are in military intelligence, special forces, topography is the most important subject for you. You must be able to orientate in the field. They get lost, they all are scared, their morale is extremely low. The most notable moment is when the avant-garde assault groups approached the local administration building located in Balaklia's central square. Although the enemy fire is absent in the city, the Kraken fighters are always ready for a combat. Look at the windows, everyone. All around defense, look at the windows around you, everyone. Take the sectors. Over the long 6 months that Balaklia was under occupation, Russians managed to establish here a full-fledged occupation administration with all the attributes of power. On September 8th, all these things went to the dump of history.
Снимайте эту хрень.
Take off this shit, raise the Ukrainian flag. The city of Balaklia in the Kharkiv Oblast has been taken under control. The order has been fulfilled. The Russian forces have retreated. The special unit of the main Directorate of Military Intelligence, Kraken. Today is September 8th, 4 p.m. The Balaklia administration offices abandoned by Russians and local collaborators were thoroughly checked and cleared. The head of the Security Department of Military Intelligence took part in the operation. There are a couple of laptops. They took them. They had plenty of time. We should have come earlier. We felt that we needed to make a powerful blow, so that the enemy was shaken and started to fall apart. The actions of our forces were so swift and unexpected for them that it led to panic. They lost command. As a result, their servicemen started to run away.
Це призвело до того, що їхні службовці почали тікати.
After the Ukrainian army took Balaklia, the enemy front in the Kharkiv direction simply fell apart. The occupiers' conversations intercepted by the military intelligence are proof of that. The 202nd Regiment was near Balaklia. They entered Luhansk, retreated, were sent away, and half of them were taken prisoners. Before the Russian army could come to its senses, bring reserves, and organize defense, we needed to build on our success. The road to the district center Kupiansk, located 40 kilometers away from the border, was open. This railway junction was an important logistics center in the deep rear of the enemy formation in Izium. After we liberated Balaklia and the surrounding district, we were deployed in Kupiansk direction. A Ukrainian armed forces brigade was already there. They reached the Oskil River. The 92nd Mechanized Brigade took the western, bigger part of Kupiansk before the Oskil under control. Russians blasted all the bridges across the river when they were retreating. While our servicemen were building temporary bridges for armor and vehicles, the Kraken infantry used this small bridge to cross the river, finding the only narrow path to the eastern part of the city. The Oskil River is a natural barrier that divides the town of Kupiansk into western and eastern parts. Namely, for this part of the town there were exhausting intense combats held by the Special Forces servicemen of the Kraken Military Intelligence Unit and their powerful assault actions.
Які проводили своїми потужними штурмовими діями спецпризначенці підрозділу «Кракен» Головного управління розвідки Міністерства оборони України.
This serviceman's call sign is Rock because in Kharkiv he worked as alpinism trainer and before the war never held a gun. Now Rock is showing us the places of the main battles for the eastern part of Kupiansk. The serious resistance started here. With every meter there it was growing more and more. There were well-prepared positions there. The first shooting contact with the enemy took place as soon as the Kraken fighters crossed the bridge and entered a neighborhood of single-family homes. This area on the left, on the eastern bank of Kupiansk, is called Zaoskilia, which means the territory behind the Oskil River. Here Russians decided to defend, but they couldn't stop the Ukrainian offensive. White band turned right. To the front. They put up a tough fight. We spread out in the streets, but broke through here, to the bridge. The local residents were heading here. They let them in as human shields and used them as a cover. Actually, there was a serious battle here. There have been losses, yes. In Skovoroda, I graduated from there too. There were many civilians in Kupiansk and surrounding villages. Because the Ukrainian army was advancing fast, they didn't have time to evacuate. So, the Kraken assault groups had to break the enemy's resistance carefully, but very persistently. They wanted to organize the first line of defense behind the Oskil, right here. We broke through it. We were fighting for 2 weeks, right? Then they started to retreat fast, and their next line of defense was already in Kislivka, Yehidny, Pishchain. The 92nd Brigade was breaking through there, therefore there are many populated centers. They were holding tight, mainly because they were using the civilians. Thank you. We can't take them. Hide, save your lives. The worst combat was in the viaduct area, across the railway line. It was important to take this military line to push the enemy further from the important railway station Kupiansk-Vazlovy. They were meeting us here and there. But we came here so bluntly, so fast and smoothly that they were taken totally by surprise, and we destroyed a lot of them here. They started to run away to the forest, but they were faced by those vehicles. See the burnt cars over there? The armored vehicles are well protected. And here we had a tough battle with grenade launchers. We used everything we could to fight them. In the industrial area, about 30 enemy soldiers were running around for some time. We had to catch them one by one, as it were. Russian officers often took off without telling their men that Ukrainians had taken control of such and such area. Because of that, the enemy was ambushed in the places where they didn't expect to see our forces. We see Russians coming, very relaxed. They look over there and don't think that we are over here. Their command didn't warn them that we have taken these positions. They were heading to the shop to buy something and came across us, so they just froze. Fertilizer. That white car over there kept going. There was a Z symbol on it. We directed heavy fire towards it. The car stopped, and 2 dead Russians fell out of it. They had an arsenal of ammunition with them. There were some interesting mines, a lot of light weapons, a sniper's rifle, etc. Okay, we are in Kupiansk. The 92nd Brigade has liberated one side. We have liberated the other side behind the Oskil. Kraken. This morning, this is where we dealt with a fucker in an armored vehicle. He didn't reach his destination. Everything will be Ukraine. Step, we are following our group with our birds. Send the next one. After Kraken's assault groups established a foothold on, then cleared the entire eastern part of Kupiansk, they continued to advance. Under the rain, they pushed with combats through the woods to the neighboring village of Podoly. Here we were hiding at a position to hunt Russians who got lost, as well as their armor and vehicles, etc. At some point of time, a towing vehicle MTLB emerged. It moved further, over there. We let it through, it turned around and at high speed started to leave. Our guys fired at it with a grenade launcher. And it bumped here at a high speed, brought down the post, and hit this corner. And Russian officer, a medic, who was on the armored vehicle, was squeezed in there.
И она, вот, выстрелили вот там, и она со всего хода врезалась туда, сбила стол и врезалась в этот угол. И зажала там русского офицера, медика, который ехал на броне.
I will throw a grenade. I am squeezed. Squeezed. Finish me. Easy. Scared? Have you finished him? No, cover me from the vegetable garden. We are not you, fuckheads. Where's your weapon? Where are you wounded, animal? Where do you come from?
Куда рань? Тварина, куда рань? Откуда сам? Сам откуда? Быстро.
Kostroma. Fucking Kostroma in my Kupiansk. We need to break the wall down and disassemble it.
Крой отсюда, крой отсюда.
don't leave the rear open. This Russian officer got lucky. He was saved from under debris and he survived as a POW. Other occupiers from this armed vehicle who didn't give up, but got dispersed in the neighboring yards and found their death in their hideouts. I have figured him out. When during the assault we entered, it turned out that the Russian was hiding in the toilet. As locals, we know that the latch on the door should be on, and here it was off. We fired a couple of shots there. He burst out and started to run away. We finished him. That's our morning today. Overall, the intensity of the combat, in particular, the close contact fire, was much higher than in Balaklia, because Russians didn't want to lose such an important logistic junction as Kupiansk in their deep rear. They tried to break through, but faced very heavy fire. 1Z, got it. Here the Kraken fighters managed to set on fire and destroy an enemy truck with ammunition load. Increase the density of fire. Let's work, let's not forget about that flank. Got you, bitch. There's ammunition load, back off. Those are Russians on fire. Fire show.
БК! БК, отходим! Вот так горить русня.
We blocked the ways of potential breakthrough of the enemy armor and vehicles with so-called mine barriers made of anti-tank mines. It either stopped them and became a good target for the infantry, or it blasted the targets into pieces. Tighten up. This is their armored vehicle that was blown up by a mine barrier established by the Kraken unit to prevent their advance. The Kupiansk soil is practically covered with dead bodies of Russian soldiers. You can take this for the battle. Take the pipes. Our wounded servicemen were quickly evacuated via the same bridge where a narrow path opened the way to Zayoskilia. Lie down. Do you feel a bit better after the shot and the dropper? Ringer has been anesthetized, dexitoprofen, Tranex 2. The sites of the enemy's location, uncovered by the reconnaissance, apart from artillery and mortar fire, were shelled with light ammunition, such as grenades of different types. They were dropped from quadcopters on the heads of the occupiers non-stop. It was important to exhaust them all the time, not give them peace, even at night. Quadcopters with thermal imagery cameras, unnoticeable at night, like owls, efficiently and almost 24 hours a day were correcting the accurate fire. Dear Ukrainians, this is a special unit of military intelligence of Ukraine Kraken. Kupiansk-Vazlovy is again under the Ukrainian flag. Over a short period of time we needed to create an efficient unit made of absolutely different people. They were based on proper grounds, such as the loyalty to the people of Ukraine, the will to destroy the enemy, I emphasize, namely the will to destroy the enemy, and absolute subordination to their commanders. As it should be in the army, they don't discuss the orders. The decision was made, the task was set, so they fulfill it. No matter how hard it is, how scary it is, whether you want to do this or not. We are proud of them.
Їм поставлено завдання, вони його виконують. Незважаючи на те, наскільки це важко, страшно, чи є бажання, чи нема. Ми пишаємось ними.
Kupiansk is finally ours. The Russian occupiers decided to clean the mess they left. It will be blue and yellow from now on. The Rosell armored vehicles are a new 2018 solution from our Canadian partners. It is very fast, reliable, light, and maneuverable. It is protected from all calibers of light weapons, and it has anti-mine protection. These armored vehicles became an awesome and timely present for the fighters from the Special Unit of Military Intelligence of Ukraine, Kraken, especially before this powerful Kharkiv offensive in autumn 2022, when almost the entire territory of Kharkiv Oblast was liberated from Russian occupiers.
Цим потужним харківським наступом восени 2022 року, коли велика, майже повна територія Харківської області була звільнена від російських окупантів.
The traces of the ugly Russian world can be found everywhere in Kupiansk premises, abandoned and defiled by the invaders. Special Police Forces Unit, Voronezh. Ours came here, the International Legion, and 2 days later 16 armed and fully equipped Russians came out of this storage basement and surrendered. They realized they were wrong.
С оружием, полное экипирование и сдались в плен. Осознали, что неправы.
Indeed, besides the Kraken unit, the 92nd Mechanized Brigade and connected units, the volunteers from the so-called International Legion took part in the Kharkiv Oblast counteroffensive. This is what this British national, a professional military man with a call sign, Sarmat, recalls.
I was actually incredibly surprised. At that point, I'd been in country sort of 6-7 months, worked with lots of Ukrainian units and seen lots of Soviet tactics. This was the first time that I'd seen a lot of stuff that we would do in my own military. We were involved with the planning process up to an extent where they had sand pits. Commanders were talking about their own roles.
Keep going.
And it was a full combined arms operation, which is the first time I've seen that in Ukraine as well. So we had self-propelled artillery all the way down to infantry guys.
Military intelligence brought together and coordinated the powerful movement of foreign military volunteers in the Ukrainian army. It was an innovation too. But during the war we faced the situation when many people from different corners of the world really want to help Ukraine fight. We needed to find a solution. Figuring out this configuration was a quick decision. We started to accept volunteers from other countries almost from the first week of the war.
Тобто майже з першого тижня війни ми почали приймати добровольців з інших країн світу.
Whereas before the counteroffensive the Russian army occupied and controlled over 1/3 of the territory of the Kharkiv Oblast, afterwards it held only a miserable 6%. The Ukrainian forces reached the border with Luhansk Oblast and continue to move forward. The success of this operation has proved that clear planning, thorough preparation, operational surprise, and resolute actions during the assault are able to practically destroy the enemy front. We took some big trophies. We took the tanks of 2 tank battalions and about 2 battalions worth of equipment of mechanized troops and a lot of other special equipment. There were indeed tanks that looked like they arrived from a parade. The result was much better than we expected because we got the territory along the state border. We planned a bit less, 2,000 square kilometers less. It gave us a considerable impetus for further offensive.
Квадратних. Значний поштовх для подальших наших наступальних дій.
On September 14th, Colonel General Syrski met with the chief commander, President Zelensky, who came to visit the near-front district center Izium that had been under occupation since early April, for long 5 months. Izium became the biggest populated center in Kharkiv Oblast that was liberated during the fast counteroffensive. I am sure, when we look up, especially the people in the occupied territories, we are looking for one thing, the flag of our state. It means that the heroes are here, so our state is under our control, and the enemy ran away. It has been really hard on you in the past months, therefore I'm begging you, please, take care of yourselves, we are the most precious thing we have. Glory to those standing here and those who will stay in our memory and history forever. Glory to Ukraine.
І тому я вас дуже прошу, бережіть себе, бо ви найцінніше, що у нас є. Слава тим, хто знаходиться тут, і тим, хто назавжди залишиться в нашій пам'яті і історії. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Glory to heroes. The best expression of gratitude for those who took part in the successful Kharkiv counteroffensive were the sincere emotions of the local civilians who met the Ukrainian army on the liberated territories. Guys, well done. Take cabbage pies. We were waiting for you guys. Thank you for coming. I want to hug every one of you. We were waiting for you desperately.